good. And ZertoN is in this eastern side as the Chinese.
And on the west, I hate east and west. On the west, we have SortOf on the purple French, going with the traditional opening.
Yes, he is, and yeah, I always just know that it spells we, so Wes is always on the left. But that was just what I've learned when I was a little kid, and I've thought about it since. But it is now game time for SortOf. We're going to see if he's going to be able to get that night pressure we talked about. Mill is on the back side for ZertoN, and we also see that he went for the mill on the berries, not next to the TC, and going with the village opening. Not any sort of miss macro like we saw in some earlier games from the other side, other player he's playing against. And then we'll just be able to get a quick feudal age, and I'm sure it'll be a quicker Song Dynasty just after that.
Absolutely. Interesting going for the village opening, so it's gonna have to go into a straggler 3 whenever he needs to. Oh, missing that chip for SortOf. Now, early game, it's very interesting because as French, you want to try to deny as much food as you can from the Chinese, but the Chinese get that extra vision from their scout.
Yeah, it makes it so much.
Some French opt to open the second scout, but we don't see that from SortOf. I know second scout against HRE is incredibly popular right now. So I was expecting the same against China, but I guess not.
Yeah, I think both, I would agree, kind of both are similar with their play style in a sense, but no second scout opening. And French is usually a civ you like 2 scouts on anyways, because you want to see different spots of their economy, different spots. If they try to, go out anywhere vulnerable, you want to see that and immediately punish it. It is all about being swift and quickly punishing, or else, it's just giving time for your opponent to breathe, giving time for your opponent to stabilize. And that's not what you ever want. 4 villagers on the School of Cavalry. It's going on down. On the other side, ZertoN not yet dropping the Imperial Academy, but will be able to with the next drop off.
Yeah, interesting. Only 4, so he's looking to put some aggression, but he's not really rushing it. Probably just gonna align the goal with 1 or 2 knights and then just transition to someone else. Something else is my guess. Imperial Academy going down with that 1 villager, like usual. We're going to see.
This is a sick Imperial Academy too. He's gonna get the stone. He's got his berries on the backside, and he's gonna get his wood line again for a long period of time. The gold isn't gonna be able to bring him some extra gold, but again, that doesn't matter to him, especially if he pulls off a gold or if this gets denied. However, the key is going to be with ZertoN is where does he want his Barbican to be dropped? Is he going to be a little bit more conservative with it next to stone, maybe next to berries? Is it going to be in front, maybe protecting his gold vein? There's always a couple different ideas, and it's going to be mainly what he wants to do once Feudal Age does end up coming in. Is he going to go for 2 TCs quickly? Is he going to go for a little bit of military? Is he going to go for Chukanu? All these different options, but SortOf not really a ton of different options. It's mainly knights into extra TCs or knights and all in.
Yep, absolutely. I'm expecting the Barbican to be dropped on the front next to the gold. That's my guess, but I'm not playing. I didn't qualify, so maybe I don't know anything about this game. I don't know. But we see the first knight starting to be produced and not be, I don't know where it's going to get rallied, but I'm assuming it's going to go to that front. And yep, we're seeing the Barbican about to get dropped after the next food drop off.
Yeah, 6 villagers on top of it, so it's going to be finished quite quickly as well.
Yeah,
that
he
knight
really doesn't want to get harassed.
Exactly, that knight just finished out. It's going to take a bit of time to get all the way across the map. Barbican already at about 1/3 of the way, going to be at about half of the way in just a few seconds. And by the time that knight reaches its objective, reaches its location across, it's going to be too late, especially with a little bit of a bait by ZertoN if it gets distracted, and boom, it does. Look at that. Just a little bit of a pullback is enough to have this Barbican fully finished. He can jump inside, maybe get a little return damage. Knight takes 2 Barbican shots. And Scout just able to distract the other side. French going heavier onto the wood and going with that typical Knight Archer comp right now and moving over to stone. So wants to try to delay up China from doing anything too long term, who goes heavy onto the gold as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This knight is going to circle all the way around just to push the Chinese out of the food. I think that's completely under TC, so just gonna cause some idle time, but not much else. But still, that's good enough when you're trying to get your second TC up. He needs more villagers on stun though.
Yes, 2 spears actually sitting on top of the berries, so Knight is not going to be able to find any damage, as those spears will just be able to brace on up if they want. He actually just A-moved the spears and they killed the sheep.
Wow. Yeah. Second knight is out too, but I'm assuming he's gonna stop producing knights very soon after this one. Please move villagers of gold. Please don't make any more knights. And
5 villagers on gold though, so where's the gold gonna end up going? Is it gonna be towards these eco upgrades that you'll see from the French side, as he already has specialized pick, he already has wheelbarrow, and he actually just sent another villain over to the gold, dropping a blacksmith as well.
Wow, so he's looking to stay aggressive. He's producing archers too. Yeah, he's absolutely looking to stay aggressive for a while. Only 2 villagers on stone, so he's gonna get a second TC eventually. But it's not his goal. His goal is to just make sure the Chinese is not comfortable.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good plan. Like, if Chinese isn't going to TC themselves and you're constantly pressuring, constantly poking, prodding, then you're only having to deal with Song Dynasty, and eventually you'll be able to have your second TC yourself, and Song Dynasty for French isn't as bad as it is compared to other civilizations. First dive on the wood line, not too much damage, just a little bit of reshuffling for the villagers.
Here comes the archers. The archers can do a lot more damage than the knights at this point. Just need to take all these archers, go behind, and harass that mill. But instead, he's choosing to regroup and maybe try a different angle.
Doesn't have enough archers though in my eyes, as Chukanu numbers are already equivalent to the archer numbers, and again, defender's advantage just makes this so much easier for him to just quickly step up. So sort of circling around, again, just looking for somewhere to pressure. Villager for ZertoN building walls already, quite long wall that he has already invested into, but about to go ahead and finish it on up already.
Yeah, this is very heads up play by ZertoN. He's just making sure, okay, what is the only way I lose? Is a bunch of military just getting behind my base. And he has his own military on the left side, so all he needs to do is make sure the right side is secure by making walls. In the meantime, what is SortOf doing? He's still with only 1 villager.
Yeah, pulled 1. I'm confused. I thought it was gonna maybe be transitioned into like a tower rush or something, because map control, or I have no idea, but it's just a very slow second TC, because a lot of the problems is if you go for the second TC, your archer number is going to be so small, and that's already what we see. SortOf's at 8, Chukanu already at 9, and continuing to mass up much faster, and those Chukanu get to a point where they trade efficiently into knights.
Yeah, absolutely. They do 4 damage times 3, 12, but with the knights, they only do 1 damage. But when
villagers able to jump inside the village, spears deter that knight raid really quick, but no damage really coming down from either side other than, you know, a couple half health units.
Absolutely. Chiganus are starting to get into that number that it's quite annoying. They can absolutely shred the archers. So if at any point SortOf decides to dive, all he needs to do is all he needs to do is just grab his Chiganus and kill the archers 1 by 1, and then the spears just rinse the knight from behind. So it's a very solid defensive position for ZertoN, and it's really difficult for SortOf to attack.
Yeah, the huge benefit for SortOf in that fight was the +1 ranged armor. Again, 3 times as effective against those Chukanu. And in reaction, ZertoN drops his blacksmith and is going to go ahead and get ranged damage.
Yep. It doesn't really matter for the knight because of their natural armor, but for his own archers, it does make a big difference. Oh, in the meantime, we see that SortOf finally got enough stone for a second TC, and he's moving out to finally place it down. I'm guessing on the hunt. Yes, on the hunt.
And gonna have a nice gold near it as well, so gonna be an easy transition because he will end up running out of this gold vein at home. He's had 4 to 7 villagers on it for quite some time, and so it's just gonna continually draw this out, and by the time he's finished up that hunt, he'll probably be needing another gold. He's got another berries as well, so pretty decent base layout for the French behind this, but hasn't been able to pressure China too much. And ZertoN has found himself at a 7-vil lead and has enough for his second TC himself in just 1 or 2 drop-offs.
Absolutely. Hold on, give me a second. I'm checking the hotkey.
No worries. Scout from ZertoN has just stayed alive perfectly. Always been like in the distance, always near the military for SortOf, but never out of position enough for SortOf to punish it. Military mass for ZertoN is very immobile, but he is just utilizing it to secure up that location for his second TC where he wants it on top of that hunt forward. Outside of his walls, though.
On the back, just bringing some damage.
Finally, a little bit of damage come down. Will we see the first Vil kill of the game? Textiles is already through, which is just such a huge benefit.
Yep, and this is going to force a lot of idle time and for ZertoN to move some of his spearmen all the way to the back. In the meantime, he's cast his big, massive Chuganu at the front. It's 19, so this is very scary because 19 Chuganus will deal almost 60 damage to a knight, so in a couple of volleys that knight is dead.
Yes, it is, especially if that knight just takes any extra damage, gets out of position at all. And so the Chukanu can get to a point where they want to just start stepping up, taking these trades, and the spears can just sit right on top of them. And they're just going to, that's the way that Chinese can kind of just end up winning in feudal. You can never dive on the Chukanu mass.
Nope, absolutely you cannot, because when there's too many, the DPS is way too high. The knight is still harassing on the back, just
waiting, making sure to deny 2 different food sources. So this is going to force an earlier granary transition as the last food sources that are safe are already being gathered.
Yeah, this is exactly what SortOf needs to do. He needs to force ZertoN to go into food sources that are way outside of his base or force him into an early farm transition. Because if he just lets ZertoN grab any food that he wants, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Oh, random knight trying to dive, not a good idea. He needs to get out of there.
Archers a little bit too far forward, take a couple volleys, get a couple Chukanu in return though. It's 21 archers, it's 26 Chukanu. Knights starting to step forward, spears in line formation behind them. A little bit of kiting.
Oh, nice.
Great job by SortOf by that micro back and forth. Spears.
That was a great clash by SortOf. Exactly what he needs. He just needs to get any damage that he can on the Chuganus without losing anything, because chivalry will heal those knights back up.
Yep, he got the charge damage out before the spears got any ability to brace, and then pulled back, and archers were helping fire down as well. ZertoN only up 10 military, which if you look at the overall army value, he's down 1,300 value, and that's because of this knight number. I said
Chop through on the back. Look at that little.
This is nice. Chop through in the backside and building an outpost in that stealth forest. There's villagers being rallied back on over to the berries, so we're gonna actually potentially see the first Vil kill of the game.
Maybe. Hopefully. Yeah, that villager is definitely going down.
At the same time, looks like a knight has found itself into the wood line, but might get taken out by the TC. Clash going down, back on the front line. Spearmen trying to brace Chukanu, firing down, out on everything in their path. Knights have denied the food in the back, and the first 2 Vils have been lost for ZertoN. Only up 10 villagers, but trying to equalize the army value, and just seems to continue slowly dropping.
Yeah, Very well played by SortOf. Just pulling one little villager. That's making a huge difference. Especially when that tower goes up, it's going to be so difficult for ZertoN to deal with because he's going to need to make a ram just to be able to take it down, especially if it gets reinforced with stone. Oh, nice clash again.
Yeah, good knight charge again, not allowing any of his knights on that front main mass to go down. And again, they're going to heal back up. It's just a few units from Chinese sides and a few extra damage, but adds up faster and faster and faster. Berries on the front line run out. That's 13 villagers being idled on out. Outpost finally spotted out. Knights coming back in for the deer. Couple charges, but a knight finally goes down. Some return damage with Chukanu on the berry for ZertoN, so he's thrown a couple units into the eco of SortOf and takes a villager down as well.
Meanwhile, on the backside, that outpost needs to get healed by the villager inside. He cannot go down. Oh, it goes on. That's very, very bad.
Spearman brace comes through. I'm about to pause it again for a half second. Spearman brace comes through. A couple more knights have come on that backside, but there's already spearmen there ready, and both of those knights go down to about 2 health. Villager that jumps out immediately tries to start building another tower. Should end up falling. SortOf still forward with that map control. There's 2 Chukanus in the wood line and on the gold right now that haven't been cleared up yet that have found 3 villagers, which if you think about it, all of this knight pressure has only caused 3 vill kills, but it's more about the idle time that we haven't thought about as well.
Yeah, but ZertoN now is in trouble. He's being forced to go into a farm transition way earlier than he would want because he still has a deer that he cannot touch. His backberries are almost ran out. There are the boars on the map still that he cannot reach, so this is not ideal for ZertoN, but he's forced into this. He has a bunch of idle villagers that he just cannot build any more granaries.
Yep, and that the back berries are about to be pressured again with the main military mass of SortOf going over to burn it down. Astronomical clock tower on its way. Spearmen realize they're being pulled back. I think the villagers need to be pulled back as well. Army circling around to go protect that location. Couple of these granaries starting to help and come online. And yeah, just how you mentioned, SortOf able to grab all of the food out on the map where ZertoN's not able to grab any. He's on the boar, he's on deer, he's got another back berries, but instead he might even grab some more of the forward boar potentially. Right as the wall gets burnt down, it actually gets pulled. SortOf pulls back, even though he hears Castle Age, doesn't want to push through, and rethinks his idea. Decides to start pushing through. Circles around the Ville that was about to deny or rebuild the wall. And Spearman Chukanu start pushing back up. We're seeing veteran upgrades come through. ZertoN does not want to take the fight until he does. Also getting the balanced projectiles. So there's veteran Chukanu and an extra range damage. Skyrockets their ability, but on the western side, there's an equivalently massive set of units by SortOf with 12 knights, 21 archers able to take down that secondary TC.
Oh, clash on the right, knights charging, get a good charge onto the Chukanus. The spear completely out of position. Meanwhile, the archers in the back getting some damage.
Veteran upgrade just now comes through. Was just a little too late. SortOf took the clash at the perfect timing. Outpost should end up getting denied. Does end up getting denied, but his secondary TC has been fully burnt down and destroyed. He's at an 11 villager count lead. He has a military mass of equivalency in numbers, but not value, but has Castle Age. Royal Institute getting closer. SortOf already has the resources in the bank to get Royal Institute. Already has the resources in the bank to get those upgrades that he needs.
Yeah, this is whenever those upgrades finish, this is going to get really, really rough for ZertoN. He needs to do something like right now before the veteran C comes in, before Royal Bloodlines comes in, because after that, this army that it's already very scary and very big for SortOf is going to get exponentially harder.
Minute and 10 seconds till Royal Bloodlines. Long upgrade for it to come through, but the veteran upgrade for Knights just finished. they become so much stronger, and he's got 25 of them. That is the main value in SortOf's army. There's spears chasing down the archers, Chukanu and some palace guards trying to help run down as well, but just not able to get down onto the military mass. Just those mobile knights taking fights that they know they're gonna win and never being really too far out of position unless it's just one or two.
Yeah, ZertoN needs to be very careful with his spears. Those are his lifeline. He cannot lose them for nothing against archers. Saying that, he has a couple of palace guards going deep into SortOf base, trying to find some kills, but his main force is about to get shredded if he's not careful.
Closing down on the archers, and the archers actually turned around, let the Chukanu get some extra fire on him, and I think that archer mass is about to just get fully cleared. He's trying to kite it down, trying to kite down the spears, which if the spears get cleared enough, the knights will just turn and take the fight. Villagers idled off of gold, being pulled, idled just by one single palace guard, but the knights will be able to clear those up in just a second.
In the meantime, the secondary force for SortOf is moving in, but there are already an SCPs and a few spearmen there, so this is not going to do much, and he needs to split those archers or that SCP.
Good job by the knights running towards the nest of bees. The nest of bees hasn't been able to grab on top of the ranged units. Good split by SortOf, splitting his archers into 3 different control groups with 3 different locations, not getting the overall massive effect of the nest of bees, and clears that whole entire mass. And at the same time, just how I said, the spears have gotten cleared. Knights turn around on the northern side and start to clear every single Chukanu on the northern side. The way to beat these units is split your army. Make them split with their inefficient and slow units. And now all your knights, they're alive. They're so tanky. Taking the clash on the north, but also pushing through in the south. He is everywhere. SortOf is taking it to ZertoN and not letting him breathe. If these knights and archers find this back gold, find this back granary farms, it is all but over.
Yeah, SortOf capitalizes very, very well on his very sharp timing when Royal Bloodline came through, all of the veterans come through. He split the army half with enough units that he could deal with both of them at the same time, while ZertoN's strength was in keeping his entire army together, and whenever he got split up, it just fell apart. And now he's doubling the army supply, and ZertoN just placing down a panic keep that is probably gonna go up, but because of half of those villagers.
I mean, a panic keep, yeah, it's gonna go up, but I mean, you're lost after this. Even if it goes up, all of those villagers, they have nowhere to go. There's only 15 spots inside. Fights being taken. SortOf has more than double the military. Another nest of bees takes a fire, not able to do too much. Knights already on top of it. Takes down a few more archers, but those archers are just taking down everything in their path. Same thing with the knights.
Yeah, the knights are there just to buy time at this point, and he's moving the archers just to focus all the villagers one by one, while the knights do their thing against the army. And he's just hunting for those villagers with the rest of his army. This is quite painful. Those knights are still running around.
SortOf
with us.
SortOf is quadrupling the military now and shredding the villager count. He's on the back line. None of the farms are going to be able to be produced from, and there will be no ability to produce any military with the food income that ZertoN's going to have. You can't match this up. All the knights, they're taking down everything.
Yeah, at this point, there's no unit that you can produce in order to match those knights. You need a substantial amount of crossbows to deal with those knights, which have royal bloodlines. They have 310 health. That's insane. I don't know. Even if he manages to deal with all those knights, then you have the Albaretria and archers to worry about, and those will take down your palace guards and your crossbows. So it's a very tough situation to be in as ZertoN.
I mean, just look at the production that's coming out from SortOf. Look at the income per minute. Look at the build difference. Look at the military difference. There is no way back in this game unless we see one of those puppy paw wham internet connection drops over here, because SortOf is taking it to ZertoN, and there it is. We are going on to the next game. SortOf, it doesn't matter the Civ matchup. He says, I'll take this win with French versus China. I don't